It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Finish Strong Friday presented by DraftKings, America's #1 rated sportsbook app. And it's an awesome Friday because of a nice little treat this week, primarily because of my travel schedule. We will have Greg Cosell previewing the biggest games in the NFL and getting his thoughts on the latest with Tua and Carson Wentz, etc. momentarily. But first, one of my favorite parts of the week, we get to give out winners. We love winners.
I want winners. I want people that want to win.
Yeah, we love people that want to help us, the little engine that could sustain, grow, whatever it is. There's lots of different ways you can do it, one of which is spreading the word via social media like Mr. BKH2. No idea who that is, but Mr. BKH2, he retweeted the Fantasy Feast with me and Joe Dolan. So thank you, Mr. BKH2. Email me, ross@rosstucker.com. I'll get you a little something. The sponsor confirmation email winner, clearly this week, Austin Wood. I mean, first of all, he signed up at Patreon to be a patron, patreon.com/RTmedia. So he's a tuckhead now on the private Slack channel where we all hang out, number one. Number two, he signed up for DraftKings in Tennessee, which just went live on November 1st. Using the code Ross, screenshotted it, sent it to me, and he liked about 30 different posts this week on Twitter and Instagram. So, Austin, congratulations. You are the sponsor confirmation email winner. And the YouTube shout out this week goes to Kelly Garrigan. Kelly is all over the YouTube stuff with comments. So, Kelly, let me know who you want the shout out for. Looking forward to it. I'll do it right here from Vegas. Vegas, baby. Vegas, where I am. Love giving the YouTube shout outs. Today's patron of the day, Ron Dong. D-U-O-N-G. Dong. I'm not sure. But Ron, congratulations. And really, congratulations to all of us because we got Greg Cosell.
The Big Show.
Every week, we talk with our guy, Greg Cosell, about the upcoming matchups in the week for the NFL. Absolutely love it. He's the executive producer and on-air talent, as they say, for the NFL matchup show. 41 years at NFL Films. He is the guru. He is our guru. Check him out on Twitter at Greg Cosell. Greg, lots to get to, as always. Let's start with Tua. We got our first chance to see what Tua could do as a NFL starter against the Rams. I know it was kind of a weird game, but tell me what you saw anyway.
Yeah, obviously it was the kind of game, Ross, where he wasn't asked to do much because of the nature of the game. But I think you saw the kinds of things that they would like to do with him. You saw the play action pass game with the quick rhythm throws. You saw the boot action. My sense was watching the tape that he does see things quickly. He knows where to go with the ball. I think that will be tested as he plays more and must make more difficult throws in more critical situations. I thought that he was consistently accurate, and that's kind of his game. I think his best throw, he had a 15-yarder to Grant on the first quarter TD drive, in which the design of the play was to his left, and Grant was running on the comeback on the right. And I thought that he came off the design of the play really quickly and then went to the right because the design was not there, and then went to the right within this timing and structure of the drop. And I thought that was a really good play. So while there was not a lot there and there's no final definitive judgment that can be made, I thought there were positives to take away.
Awesome. Okay. Conversely, and I should mention, by the way, Greg's segment is always presented by DraftKings Sportsbook because I feel like whether it's for DFS or if you like to bet the games, Greg always provides some extra insight you can't get anywhere else that could help you for either one of those ventures on the DraftKings app or the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Greg, let's get into Carson Wentz. And I was there Sunday night. The Eagles have a bye this week.
Yes.
So there's no game to break down. But I feel like the performance was significant enough in terms of what we saw that I need to get your feelings as to what is going on there. Because how I would describe it, Greg, is that it wasn't just 4 turnovers. At least live, it felt like 4 really bad turnovers.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? What are you seeing?
No, Wentz continues to struggle. I don't think he's seeing things right now. I think that, and on top of that, there's kind of a reckless, undisciplined nature to his play that you just can't have. Look, right now they've gotten some weapons back. As the Eagles go forward after the bye, they're going to have Fulgham as their X, and he's shown to be a solid player. They're going to have Rager as their Z, and I think he's an explosive athlete who can do some things. Ward has proven to be a solid slot. Sanders will come back. Goddard's back. I guess Ertz will be back at some point, perhaps right after the bye. So they're going to have some weapons back. We know their offensive line, Ross, has been in flux, and we'll see where that goes. But that's not really relevant to an evaluation of Wentz. When you evaluate a quarterback, you must isolate how he's playing. The numbers are not important. It's how is he playing. And there's no sense of rhythm to his game. There's a recklessness to his game right now. He needs to settle down, and we'll see if it happens. We know he has high-level talent, and we know he can play well. But right now he is not.
Any couple questions would be, Greg.
I can't tell you why. I just can tell you what the film shows.
Okay. I guess the other question then is, at what point, if you follow the Eagles, do you just say this is who he is, or do you think that he can fix this stuff?
I think it's all fixable. The question is, and I can't speak to this, no one can, and of course everybody wants to have an opinion about it, but it's just an uninformed opinion unless you're in the building. None of us know how he's being coached. None of us know offensively the scheme and what he's being asked to do. So there's just too many things we don't know to answer that. The one thing we do know, Ross, is he's a talented player. Believe me, I had this off season GMs in the league tell me that after Mahomes, he's the most physically gifted quarterback in the league. Now, that might sound like a ridiculous statement now, given the way he's been playing, but you don't just discard that kind of talent. So you need to really, as an organization, and as I said, we're not in the building. As an organization, you need to really assess this and decide the reason why a guy with pretty high-level talent is not performing well right now.
Boy, that's interesting. Good point. We're talking with Greg Cosell, the NFL Films guru, here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Let's move on to another young quarterback, Greg. It appears that Jake Luton, who I remember you bringing his name up before the draft last year, 6th-round pick out of Oregon State. Looks like he'll get his first start. The Jags are getting 6.5 points from the Texans on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Your thoughts on Luton? Who is he? What should we expect?
You know, I liked his tape. And I actually spoke to a quarterback coach before the draft who loved him. I think that he struck me as the kind of quarterback that if he was in a well-schemed, efficient system, and I made the point in my notes when I evaluated him, that if you put him in a McVay system or a Shanahan system, I think that he could be highly efficient. Now, I think Jay Gruden theoretically has a similar, really well-schemed system. It's his first start. We have no idea. And, of course, you know how this works. If he plays poorly, Ross, people say he stinks. That's the way this works. But I think Jake Luton has a chance to be a solid NFL quarterback. Throws the ball well, not a big arm, but can make every throw. There was a sense of timing and rhythm to his game. He's a pocket player, but he's not a statue, has functional mobility. I am fascinated to see him. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there with the quarterback position once Minshew is healthy. I would love to see Luton to get a chance to play, 5, 6, 7 games in a row. And just a quick point. On the other side, I think Deshaun Watson is playing far and away the best football of his career the last month. I think he's been playing sensational football. And because the record doesn't reflect it, maybe a lot of people aren't really taking note. But I think Deshaun is really taking his game to a much higher level because I think he's playing with much more poise and consistency from the pocket.
Wow. That's interesting, Greg. I didn't know that. I thought Deshaun Watson had kind of been struggling.
No, I think the last 3 weeks, maybe, month, give or take, I think he's been playing exceptional football.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. I like when guys are playing good football. Let's get to some matchups, Greg, that intrigue me this week. Seattle and Buffalo.
Yeah.
They're both good teams. They both have good records. I'm having a tough time. I talked about this on the Even Money podcast earlier in the week. I'm having a tough time getting any kind of handle on what to expect from this game. Taking a look at it on DraftKings, the Seahawks are favored by 3 points. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, this game fascinates me. Buffalo last week ran the ball very well, but there was a reason for that. They played a New England defense that basically plays dime almost as its base. And they ran a lot at Adrian Phillips, number 21, who's essentially a linebacker in the Patriots dime, but he's 212 pounds. So that's not going to happen this week in terms of what Seattle does. But I believe the Bills need to run the ball, and they will want to try to continue to run the ball and have a committee with Zach Moss and Singletary. Moss is much more of a grinder. I think they'd like him to be a little more of the guy because he can ideally keep them on schedule. Because we're quarterbacks that can move, kill a defense, Ross, is when it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4. And because you have to be very concerned about their ability to make plays with their legs. So, ultimately, that's what I think Buffalo would like to be in a position where when it does get to be 3rd down, it's not 3rd and 9, it's 3rd and 3. And that changes the way the defense then has to play because Josh Allen's legs become a big factor.
It's a really good point, Greg. Really good point. That's an awesome football game. It really is.
And we know about Seattle. I mean, Wilson is so good. What I'm anxious to see here, just a quick point, is Tre'Davious White has, for the most part this season, been a boundary corner. In other words, he's not necessarily matched up to anyone. He plays the short side of the field, the boundary. Now, everybody is saying, oh, well, he'll match up to Metcalf. We don't know that. Metcalf does line up as the boundary X, the single receiver to the short side of the field, but they've moved Metcalf around this year more than they did as a rookie. So he doesn't always line up as the boundary X. In fact, he has a lot of catches this year where he's not the boundary X. So I'm curious to see what they do with White. And, of course, you still have Tyler Lockett, and he's pretty good by himself as well.
Yeah, he certainly is. Greg, we talked about Chase Claypool a couple weeks ago. I look at DK Metcalf somewhat similarly in the sense that both really big men, 6'4", 230 plus, both really fast, but there were concerns about their route running and their ability to run certain routes.
Yep.
Is there a lesson there in like DK Metcalf looks like T.O. to me? Like, is there a lesson there where, you know what, if you're that big and fast and strong, you don't really need to be able to be that quick out of your breaks or run all the comeback route. Like, you can be very successful just running 3 or 4 routes. What's the lesson moving forward?
Yeah, I know where you're going with this, but I will say this. Metcalf has improved as a route runner this year. I mean, is he ever going to be, the best route runner in the game? Is he ever going to be a technician like Adam Thielen? Maybe not. And you're right. He probably doesn't have to be quite that way. But you do need to improve as a route runner. You don't have to be special. And Metcalf has clearly improved this year. He's run some good routes. But I understand your point. If you're 6'4", 230 or 6'4", 238 like Claypool, can you still be a quality NFL receiver and a big weapon? You probably can. The question is, how big of a weapon? In other words, are you just a certain kind of weapon? See, I think Metcalf is moving to be more than just a certain kind of weapon. We don't know about Claypool yet. He's still a rookie, and he's not getting, that many snaps quite yet.
Talking with the great Greg Cosell here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Look forward to it every single week. What about Chicago and Tennessee? Another game between two teams that had disappointing losses for different reasons. Feels really important for both of their playoff hopes. In other words,
yeah, I agree.
You're feeling good about it. The loser, not so much.
Yeah, Tennessee's a fascinating offense. They scored a lot of points last year, and they hit a lot of big plays. This year, they've not hit as many big plays in the passing game, particularly over the last number of weeks. It's interesting. I was very fortunate to spend a lot of time with Bill Walsh, and one of the things I learned from Bill Walsh is that the run game and the pass game must be able to work independently of one another if you're going to be a great offense. In other words, your pass game can't just work off your run game. And look, I'm sure most teams think that, our pass game does work independently, but I brought this up because of Tennessee. I think at their core, they're a running football team. I mean, look, last week they were down 10-0, and on their third possession, they came out and ran the ball 8 consecutive times. And they scored a touchdown on that drive, by the way. But that's who they are. So the question is, when push comes to shove, can Tennessee's pass game work independently of its run game? And as I said, they'll say, yeah, it can. To me, I think that's something we need to wait and see, because we know they can run it, but you know how it is, Ross, in this league. Not every week do you just line up and run it for big yards. It doesn't quite work that way.
Nope. Let's go to Baltimore and Indy. Similar game in terms of, the winner of this game, you're feeling really good about them.
Yeah.
The loser, not quite as much.
Yeah, and Indy's defense is kind of fun to watch there. Darius Leonard is such a critical piece to that defense. When you watch him play, they use him in multiple ways. They're not a heavy blitz team, but in their sub-nickel, they move him around a lot, and he does rush at times. But they're just a very disciplined, fundamentally sound team. They don't give up a ton of big plays. They rely on their front four. In some ways, you could say they're like the Niners a year ago. And then Baltimore's offense, they still put up points, but their pass game has not been very good. In an age when everybody throws for, tons of yards, Lamar Jackson does not. Last week, he did get over 200 yards for the first time in 5 games, based on a play at the end of the game to Willie Snead, it was a busted coverage, but they don't throw it real well. They run it great. That's their foundation. My question would be, and I don't know the answer to this, I think they have to throw it better. And we'll see as time goes on. There's a fine balance with a quarterback like Lamar. Otherworldly athlete, runs a lot when he doesn't have to, but can still make great runs, but then leave some throws on the field as well.
Finally, Greg, Sunday Night Football, Saints and the Bucks. What do you got for me?
Well, if I'm the Bucks, I'm going to be very aggressive with pressure. They're really good at it. Drew Brees, I don't think with Brees and the receivers the Saints put out there that you have to worry about Brees beating you over the top. So I would expect them to play man coverage, press man, and go after Brees. That's my sense. And I know Todd Bowles, he's a very quiet guy, Todd Bowles, but he's very intense and very aggressive, and I think he'll do that.
Love it. Make sure you check him out on social media at Greg Cosell, and check out the NFL Matchup Show every week. And, of course, listen to him here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast every single week, the great Greg Cosell. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
Appreciate Greg, and I appreciate DraftKings. To celebrate Sunday's action, DraftKings is ensuring all new users are covered up to $100. Think about that for a second. You bet, they cover with risk-free Sunday betting. Plus, there's plenty of action to get on. So head to the app now and make it rain. You guys just heard some of the best matchups that Greg and I went over. That's kind of the beauty or the fun, by the way, of putting, a shekel or a unit, whatever that is for you, on a game. It just makes them all more interesting. And the cool thing about DraftKings, it's the biggest and really the only that I'm aware of U.S.-based, totally U.S.-based Sportsbook, which is awesome. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code Ross when you sign up to get the can't miss offer. DraftKings Sportsbook is insuring your Sunday's bets up to $100. That's right. You bet. They cover you up to $100 when you use promo code Ross during sign up. Limited time, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey or PA only. Risk-free coverage paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Tuck's Takes.
Good morning, Ross. Well, let's start with the game last night. Thursday Night Football. Packers destroyed the 49ers on Thursday Night Football. The final 34-17, and the headline that I love this morning. 49ers suffer lopsided loss thanks to $80.8 million in cap space that's on IR.
Yeah, that was brutal in and of itself. But then to lose Ayuk and Trent Williams under the high-risk contact protocol. You know, I talked about this earlier in the week, Bri. If I'm a team, maybe I got to talk to some more people. I must be missing something because I don't understand why these teams are allowing there to be this many people considered high-risk contacts. Like, don't get within 6 feet of someone for 15 consecutive minutes. Don't do it. Like, you know, for the week, watch film, eat right, lift your weights, get your rest, and don't be within anybody else for close to 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. You're hurting your team's ability to win games when guys like Trent Williams and Ayuk go on the high-risk protocol. It's really bad. They didn't have Deebo Samuel, but he was hurt anyway. But Trent Williams, Ayuk, hurt him badly. This game was never really close. It wasn't even really as close as, you know, the score indicates. The Niners got a couple of late garbage touchdowns, one which really helped people on that had the over in the game that were betting on it at DraftKings. But they used a lot of Aaron Jones on the first drive. Devontae Adams had a terrific touchdown catch. He's an amazing football player. I tweeted last night, Bri, at RossTuckerNFL. And, of course, we are at RossTuckerPod. I really don't know how many receivers I would take over Devontae Adams. He is a special, special player. You know, for Rodgers was hot. Devontae Adams was amazing. Richie James was kind of the only guy for the Niners that was making plays. Nick Mullins was not great. Preston Smith nailed him, and that led to another Devontae Adams dominating drive and a Mercedes Lewis touchdown. The Niners gave up a deep post touchdown to Marquez Valdez-Scantling late in the first half on a dropped coverage. The left tackle for the Niners filling in for Trent Williams, Justin School, he really struggled. He got schooled. And yes, I thought about that one ahead of time. And I mentioned Mullins didn't play very well. So not a good night for the 49ers. We knew it was going to be tough. I guess I was expecting a little bit more than that from them.
Tuck's Takes.
Bunch of news on the COVID front. Matthew Stafford was placed on the list in Detroit, but he reportedly tested negative and should still be available for Sunday's game.
Right. So I guess the protocol is if you have a close contact who has it, you go on the list and you have to stay home. And I guess it's 5 days. 5 days of you have to test negative every day for 5 days, because it sounds like he should be able to come back for Sunday, but nothing before. And he even has to fly privately to the game because he can't be around his teammates on Saturday because that's the 5th day. So that, to me, Bri, sounds like a pretty strict, good protocol. You know, even if you're just around somebody, you don't test positive, you're around somebody that tests positive, you have to be away from all the guys for 5 days and just keep testing negative. I like that. I think that's a good job by the NFL.
Tuck's Takes.
Bunch of other notes, and we'll start with quarterback Josh McCown signs with the Houston Texans. That is his 12th NFL franchise.
He was getting paid to just be on practice squad for the Eagles from home as like a quarantined quarterback. That seemed like a pretty good gig. But I guess, he lives near Houston, lives in Texas. To be able to go to Houston, I'm sure it's more money. I don't really know. I didn't really see why Houston wanted Josh McCown. I don't know. Did they have an injury or something? I don't know why Houston decided to sign Josh McCown. Maybe they're going to make him their next head coach or offensive coordinator. It's kind of weird. I didn't get the lowdown on why they wanted him, but if that's what Josh wanted, he's an awesome guy. I'm happy for him.
Tuck's Takes.
Speaking of the Texans and the Colts, the latest to have COVID facility shutdowns.
I guess for the Colts, I think it's a staff member that tested positive. And for the Texans, it's Jacob Martin, their edge rusher. So now you see who are all the guys that are close contacts of these people and whether or not they can get back for Sunday. I mean, what a crazy, crazy time we live on so many levels.
Tuck's Takes.
Miami Dolphins running back Myles Gaskin goes on IR.
Right. We had kind of mentioned that Gaskin was, that's one of the reasons, him being banged up, why they traded for DeAndre Washington, because the Dolphins have a bunch of banged up running backs. Gaskin often miss at least 3 weeks. It's a shame. He's having a nice year. He's kind of establishing himself as an NFL player.
Tuck's Takes.
The Las Vegas Raiders lose a 6th-round pick to COVID violations.
Yeah, I mean, Bri, they're not messing around, right? I mean, they're making it pretty clear that if you're going to have continued COVID violations, that they're gonna drop the hammer on you. And I think they should. 6th-round pick. I think Gruden was fined another 150 or something. The team was fined 500,000. They're sick of it. And this is what you needed to have happen. You need to have some teams not have players like the Niners last night. You need to have the Raiders lose a 6th-round pick. With the epidemic spreading again, and the numbers are going up so significantly, it's really scary, especially for me who's traveling a lot right now. These teams are going to have to really button up for these next 2 months. You cannot allow any type of seepage, if you will.
Quick question on that. Where does that 6th-round pick go? How do they allocate that somewhere else?
It just goes away.
Okay.
It just there's compensatory picks and stuff. So like when the Patriots lost their 1st-round pick for Spygate or Deflategate or whatever, there was only 31 1st-round picks that year. It just goes into the ether.
Tuck's Takes.
Bears, Cody Whitehair, Chiefs, Chris Jones, Eagles, safety Marcus Epps all go on the COVID list.
Right. I think Whitehair and Epps tested positive. The Eagles have a bye. The Bears obviously do not. The Bears O-line's in bad shape now with this news. Chris Jones evidently was just around somebody that had it. So, but he's obviously a difference-making player. But the Chiefs, I think Chiefs have a bye this week too, right? So they're okay.
Tuck's Takes.
And finally, Falcons find defensive end Takk McKinley for social media posts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new world with social media and these guys complaining on social media about them not getting traded. They probably should trade him. He hasn't done anything as a Falcon. I don't know why they didn't trade him, to be honest with you. He's done like nothing for them. So I'm kind of with you, Takk, but going on social media, not the way to go about it. Now you just cost yourself more money, which isn't real smart. By the way, the teams that would try to trade for you, they don't want guys that go on social media and say stuff like that. So you got to think that through a little bit. I think we're done here. Shout outs. Go to Pizza Boy Brewing. Man, I could use a Pizza Boy beverage and pizza right now. DynastyFreaks.com. What's that?
A beverage?
Bri, I speak extemporaneously all day. And every once in a while, I flub a word. And I really don't need you to point that out and make me feel bad about it. Anyway, Sporticulture, SteakhouseSports.com, Vision Comics with an X. That'll do it for the week. Check out the Even Money podcast. Check out the Fantasy Feast podcast, Andrew's Business of Sports, College Draft podcast, where we now pick them against the spread. We'll have a bunch more highlight clips over the weekend from the Feast and College Draft, etc. If you get a chance tomorrow, check out Fresno State at UNLV, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS Sports Network. Other than that, I think we're done here. Beverages for everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, RossTucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.